Thank you for joining me on a quilting tale today. My name is Shaylin, and to kick off the new year, I wanted to do a little project parade of some quilts and smaller projects that I finished in 2025. And then I also want to talk about plans for 2026, most of which are going to be to finish the mountain of whips that I have going on. Some I started in 2025, some I started, I think, going back all the way to 2021. So I have many quilts I want to finish, a couple new ones I want to throw in the mix. Will I get them all done this year? Probably not, but it's great to have aspirations and try. So I'm going to share just what all the projects are that I have going on and kind of my plan for working on them. And then I just have some general goals that I want to really try to stick with this year. So without further ado, let's take a look at what I finished in 2025. I'm going to pop up pictures for most of these things just because they're packed away or I just can't show the whole thing as easily as I can in earlier footage of it. So let's go ahead and take a look. So in the spring of 2025, I was on a roll with finishing and binding some quilts. So one of the first ones that I finished was my snowflake quilt, and it is currently being used. It was hard to pack it away right after finishing it, but right now it is out and displayed in all its glory. I love the pink mixed with the red and green Christmas. I've really come to like pink being added in with reds. I just think it softens it up a bit, but still looks really nice. So I will put dimensions and fabric lines, if applicable, with the pictures and video so you can see what I used. But my next finish was my summer sunset quilt. And this one was done in all solids, which I hadn't done before. And I actually really liked. I thought I might get bored with just having solid prints, but the colors were so vibrant and I loved the contrast with the white that they were fun to make each block, even though it was the same block, with the exception of the one in the upper corner. That one had a little bit of foundation paper piecing in it, and both blocks in this quilt were free patterns from Moda blockheads, and I just liked these ones and wanted to just focus on those ones in a quilt, and I think it turned out just dazzling. In April, I finished my 2024 brown bag mystery quilt called Piece of Cake. And this is a program by Karen Montgomery that she does every year. And it's a double blind mystery because you only get to see one fabric piece in the kit, and the rest you don't know what you're going to get fabric wise. You also don't know what the pattern is. And so you get clues mailed to you and you build the pieces, and you don't know until the final clue what you're constructing. And so it's a lot of fun. It is a great skill builder. And I've come to realize that she often uses different tools that are optional but make constructing the blocks easier. And so you can also learn some of the tools like rulers or specialty paper if that's something you're interested in. I am not going to be participating this year in 2026. I still have my 2025 quilt to put together. And so that's one of the whips I'll be sharing in a little bit here. But if you're interested, quilt kits start showing up in participating symposium shops in January. So they should start being for sale soon in participating shops. And then you have January, February to pick out a kit, or some quilters that were involved picked out multiple kits, and the clues start coming in the mail in March. So I just wanted to put that on your radar if that sounds like something fun for you. I have not been disappointed in either that I've participated in. This summer, I also finished a smaller project, my vintage truck of the month July truck. It was the last truck I needed to complete the 12 months. And I had started these a couple years ago. So July had just been put on the back burner because I display them in my classroom. And that's the only month of the year that I'm not in my classroom. Once I finished it, I wanted to give big stitch hand quilting a try, and I thought this would be the perfect small project to do it on, and I loved how it turned out. Over the summer, I made the free Tilda Wells pattern and did a tutorial video on how you can make these adorable stuffed wells. I used Tilda fabrics for these, but you could use any to match your motif or colors that you like. These come together pretty quickly and they're a lot of fun to make. So I'd encourage you to try that out if you're looking for a simple project and you know someone or you are someone who loves whales or nautical or ocean themed motifs. And then another project, I haven't even shown this. I finished a quilt, I've filmed for it, I just have not done the video for it. Over the summer, I was really excited to use some pre-cuts from a line I just fell in love with. It was the strawberry line from Ruby Star Society because I'm a big fan of strawberries and I love the bright colors. So here's just a sneak peek of that finished quilt. I will make the video for this. I actually have footage for a few different projects and topics that I just haven't edited into videos yet. It's kind of that balance of work and having kids and wanting to quilt and actually make things, and then the videos are another piece of that. So I enjoy making the videos too. I just feel like I want to work on projects more. And so I film while I'm making them, but I do have a few that I need to put into videos. So there is more content coming than I might be working on this year. And hopefully I will get those out. You might see my hair length or something change in those videos just because they were filmed a while ago. But going back to my fall projects, I made another large quilt, the Little Ghost quilt, inspired by the picture book, The Little Ghost Who Was a Quilt. And that one is still out and it's just a favorite with that minky fabric on the back. That was the first time I used a minky fabric. It is just the coziest quilt and I love the blues and the creams in it. I also got to use my feed sack fabric for the first time and try that out, and it's been holding up nicely in that quilt. I also made a couple smaller projects. One was a patchwork pillowcase with Halloween prints for my daughter, and another, my final 2025 finish was showcased in my last video. You may have seen the table runner and napkins that I made to complement my dishes from my great great aunt. I wanted to make something that would just spruce up our holiday tables when we have Thanksgiving, Christmas meals, or special occasions. And so that got finished just down to the wire. I had originally started it right before Thanksgiving, knowing that that wasn't going to be a deadline I could make. But I thought for Christmas I could have it done. But I have my youngest, whose birthday is between Thanksgiving and Christmas. She wanted a corgi math themed birthday party. And so that was a lot of fun to put together, but it did take some planning and just hosting the party, getting ready for that. We had an HVAC system installed, then Christmas came, and I just wasn't able to get it done in time, but it's ready to go for the next time we pull those dishes out. I forgot to mention in that video also, the table is also from my great great aunt. My aunt had had it for a while, and then when she moved, she passed it on to me. So it just feels really special having meals at that table and using those dishes. And I hope my girls have fond memories with those dishes and will want them someday when they're ready to be passed along again. That wraps up all the finishes for 2025. So now let's talk about 2026 and my current projects that will hopefully get finished this year. I'm hoping that several of them will at least. And one of those is a pillow. All I have to do is finish the binding. So I want to film for it though. And so I want to make sure I have some time and quiet to do that. But you may have seen in a more recent video, my fall projects, I made this Sweet Kitty of Autumn wall hanging. It was just a small little quilt, and I thought it would look great as a pillow. And so I just need to bind it. I have the envelope folds on the back here, and so I just need to get the binding on. So this should be my first finish of 2026. I just need to stop putting it off. So let me talk about the quilts. I have two that I want to bring into the mix, and then I was counting them. If you saw my wheel of whips that I was doing over the summer, I have 10 projects on there. So that's 12 altogether. And I thought, is it possible to get one a month done? Realistically, probably not. But I'm going to share these projects, kind of how I envision doing them if I were to complete one a month, and some of my reasoning for the order I'm putting them in. I'll share the two additional quilts that I haven't started yet. I actually have multiple options for them. I want to make a patriotic quilt because this is the 250th anniversary of the United States being a country. And so I thought it would be great to make a commemorative quilt for that. And then I also want to make a large Christmas quilt for our bed. I have lots of throw size quilts now, but I want something that would fit a queen size bed nicely so we're not fighting over these smaller quilts. And then sprinkled throughout, I want to also talk about some general goals and things I'm trying to be more mindful of in 2026. So, on that note, one of my goals for this year is just to be more mindful of my fabric purchases. I'm not going to say I'm not buying any fabric this year because I just know that's not true. But I do recognize that I have quite a stash, and I know I could compare it to others and be like, oh, that's nothing. And I know some people have hardly anything and just get things for the project they need. I started out that way, but it's not about comparison. I'm just thinking about for me and what's realistic. I want to still love the fabric when it is time to break into it and use it. I have been looking at just the bags and boxes and totes of fabrics that I've purchased because I fell in love with a fabric line and I wanted to get the backing for it and have everything for it, borders, not knowing for sure what I'd be making yet, but I just didn't want to miss out. And I think I didn't start getting into pre-cuts, really noticing them until about 2020, 2021. And so I have a lot of pre-cuts that I accumulated during that time, just thinking, oh, this is pretty. I don't want to miss this. I need to get the backing for that to have. And what I've come to learn after seeing lines come out year after year is that fabric designers tend to stay in their lane with motifs and colors. And if there's a fabric that I really love that's out right now, but I just think, I don't have the time for it or the money for it, or I have too many other things to be making, something similar is likely to come out a year or two from now. So I've kind of calmed down with the pre-cuts and haven't been buying so many like I'll never see it again. That's a tip I'd have if you're a new quilter and you're just getting into building your stash and seeing pre-cuts especially. They're very tantalizing and it's wonderful to get them. I love supporting quilt shops and want them to stay in business. But I know for myself, I need to kind of curb my enthusiasm for it and slow down because I'm getting to that point. There's an acronym called SABLE, Stash Accumulation Beyond Life Expectancy. I'm starting to look at my stash and think, am I headed in that direction? But I'm just looking at the totes of fabric that I have, and I bought them with the intention of turning them into beautiful quilts, and I want to be able to see them through. And so I know I need to pump the brakes on getting more project and more fabric. And so that is going to be a goal in 2026 is to just finish what I've started and maybe let go of any projects that I don't care for anymore, and just hopefully by 2027 just have a wide open lane for creativity. But I love all the projects that I'm going to show you today and I want to see them through. So that's just something that I want to throw out there that yeah, I'm trying not to take on more and more because I probably have enough for 20 or 30 more quilts in the queue if I really were to see all of these projects through. So that's going to be a big goal. So let's talk about these whips that I want to finish. And some of them have been featured in past videos, and some of them are brand new to the channel. So let's kick off these whips with my January plan, which is to finish my Knitted Blooms quilt, a pattern by Lo and Behold Stitchery. It started as a quilt along, and I think I participated for about a week, and then I just was working on a bunch of other things and it fell to the side. So I want to get this one done. When I was doing my Wheel of Whips and spinning, I landed on this one as a fall finish. It obviously did not get finished this fall, but I did make a big dent in it. I'm over halfway through the blocks, and I've been adding a little lace doily in the center, and I can't wait to see how this looks when it's all put together. These colors were inspired by a t-shirt that I got from Custer State Park in South Dakota, and I think it just has special ties with that trip, being able to see a family cabin that I learned about that my great grandpa had helped build and was a popular vacation destination for his side of the family. And so I really want to see this quilt through and get that top finished. For February, I want to finish my 2025 Year of Sewing Machines quilt. This was a block of the month by Heather Briggs of My So Quilty Life. This was a bit of a mystery quilt. One block a month would be released, and they're all sewing machines making a mini quilt or a block that's inspired by that month. And I've had a lot of fun putting the first 4 months together. I thought this would be a great one to do after Knitted Blooms because it's 12 different blocks. And after making 20 of the same blocks, I thought it would be great to just break it up a little bit and have a little more variety. I did see that Heather Briggs for 2026, her mystery quilt along is strawberry themed. And that is so tempting to me. I don't know if it's because I'm an 80s baby and grew up watching Strawberry Shortcake, but I love strawberry fabric and strawberry motif quilts. And so that one is one that I might have to do in the future. I'm setting boundaries for myself and saying not this year, but I did see that coming up. And so if you love strawberries, again, Heather Briggs is a designer that I have not been disappointed in her patterns and what she creates. And so that's one that you might look into. It's getting ready to start very soon. She'll be releasing a January block. So you can look at that. I even saw that it's on sale, I think, until January 9th. It's 25% off the pre-order bundle. So just thought I'd share that. For March, again, this is assuming I get these things done, so I'm just going in the order. I was thinking of that Patriotic quilt, having it ready by Independence Day, July 4th. And so I thought that would be a good time to start it. Now, I have 3 options that I'm going to share, and I would love your feedback if you want to leave a comment about which one you would like to see me create. I don't think I can go wrong with any of them, but they're all ready to go. I have the fabric for each of them. And so I'm going to show you those options now. I'm going to show you the Patriotic options one at a time. This was a kit that I showed, I think, a couple years ago in a video, saying it was one that I had wanted to accomplish. And as you can see, it is still in the box. It's a pattern by Fig Tree and Company using the Catalina fabric line. And I got it, one, because I loved the quilt pattern, but I also just love the fabric. And so the pattern is called Stars and Stripes Forever. These kits I know are very hard to find now because this was several years ago. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of fabric lines that come out that are similar. And Fig Tree has one coming out soon called Rosy. And it has a lot of similar looking colors in it. Kind of this, not quite fire engine red. It's like a reddish orange color. And then I just loved the deep blues in it. And so I got it because I really loved the fabric. And when I first noticed the fabric, most of it was gone in shops, but I saw the kit and I do love this pattern with the different flags. Some of them have the sawtooth stars and some are just the fabric, but there's all kinds of little star designs that are kind of bordering the flags. And so this is my first option. And like I said, if you want to share in a comment which one you would like to see me do, that might help me decide, because I love all these options. So that's Stars and Stripes Forever, or the Catalina quilt. This next one, I'm making use of all the Missouri star bags I got when I went on my trip this summer. I want to use this pattern called Starly. I got this curated Fat Eighth bundle from a quilt shop online. It was a small quilt shop. I want to say it was Quilter's Candy Shop. Most of these fabrics are from the same line, but not all of them. Again, I love how pink and red go together. There's a lot of pink fabric with red on it. And so it was just a really nice color palette to me. And so what I have here, I even have labeled. So the outer border and backing, I'm going to do the main print for. And then this looks like one of my little tags fell off. Let's see, one of my stickers. Oh, the background is going to be this one. So instead of a solid, I wanted to do this red dot. And then for the contrast, so I have these two white fat quarters in here, and those aren't going to work as well up against the white background. And so I just got, this would be a half yard to substitute for two fat quarters. And then I have an inner border and the binding. And let's see if I can see the name of this line. Vintage Charm by Danny Mogstad. And so that's what most of these fabrics are from, that line. But I thought, because I have blues, reds, and pinks, I could do where these stars are here, just do them in blue, red, and pink instead of the yellow and the purple. I'd swap some of those out, but I thought it would look nice with these fabrics. So this is called Starly. It's a pattern by Cotton and Joy Patterns. And I'm going to be doing the throw size, which is 60 by 80 inches. For option 3, it's going to come out of the Celebrate with Quilts book. And this is a book by Lisa Alexander and Susan Aki. And it starts on page 120. I'm just going to cover some of the directions there. But this quilt is called Land That I Love. And I just think this one's beautiful. It's 85 inches by 68 inches. This book has, I believe, 60 or so individual blocks that you can choose. And so you don't have to make it exactly as it appears on the sample quilt. This one requires 28 of those blocks. So you choose 28 of them to do in reds and whites. And then you're going to make these little dandy star blocks. One that's in red, one that's in blue. It goes in the star portion of the flag. And so you're just going to use a mix of reds and blues in this. And so for this one, I've just pulled what I have. For the background, I think this might actually be the one in the book. I had some of it and I ordered more. I found some more in an Etsy shop. I had got this fabric during a shop hop a few years ago, just knowing that I wanted to do a patriotic quilt someday. It's called Sweet Liberty by Brenda Riddle. And so I got enough. I ordered some more because I usually just get a half yard when I don't know what I'm doing with it. But I found some more online. And so that would be the background. And then the main red, let me go back here. This background here that surrounds all the 28 main blocks, I want to do in this red. It has dark and a lighter red on it. And then for the blues, it looks like you need a darker and lighter blue. And so I wanted to use this one for my darker blue, those larger setting triangles. And then this one for those little inside diamonds. For those little 3-inch dandy stars, it looks like those are a mix of blues. So I just pulled a few more blues, and I have more in my stash, but these are the ones that jumped out to me as working well. And then I pulled some reds out of my stash, which would be used to make the dandy star blocks and the individual 28 blocks. So I just have an assortment of red. Some are red and white that I thought would look good and fit the motif. So this one is more of a stash buster to me. So I just keep all these projects together in a bag or a box. And so I want to start getting rid of some of these bags and actually turning them into the quilt. So those are my 3 quilt options for my 250-year commemorative quilt. Should I do Stars and Stripes Forever, Starly, or Land That I Love? Leave me a comment if you have a preference. One thing that might be worth mentioning, because this fell out of the bag and I just noticed it, is whether you're shopping at a quilt shop or shopping your stash, on the selvage of many prints, you'll see all the colors that they use in that print. And so when I knew that this was the background I wanted to use, and I'm looking through what fabrics I have, I just cut off a piece of the selvage. And sometimes I just carry these in my purse if I know that there's a future project I'm planning and I might come across a good sale or something when I go into a quilt shop. Just have these handy because you can pull them out and look at what you have and say, oh yeah, that's a good match. Or maybe it's too dark or light. And so, like this one, I held up and I thought, ooh, number 7 ties in well with the background. And then there's the darker red like number 2. And so that helps me, especially if you're in a shop and you don't have the main fabric with you. It lets me see that even though it's not the same line, it's going to look nice color-wise with that fabric. So use the selvage and just snip a piece off if you think you want to build your stash for a certain project. Now, if by some miracle I am on track and we're in April, I think a great whip to finish would be another Heather Briggs pattern, her flower stand block of the month. And I have a couple of the blocks behind me. I'll take them down to show them to you up close. But this was another block of the month I didn't participate in while it was happening because I was waiting for at the time, her new line, Dainty Meadows, to come out, and I wanted to make it with those fabrics. But I have all the fabric, I have all the clues for it, and so I thought since it's the springtime in April, that would be a nice one to work on. For May, I want to finish my Karen Montgomery brown bag mystery quilt. I mentioned Piece of Cake as a finished one for 2024. 2025 was called Dealer's Choice because you are able to pick the placement of some of the fabrics that you get in your kit. Now this one, I have all the blocks constructed. I just need to put them together and make some of those choices. Part of the participation in the program is agreeing not to show the paper directions, and so that includes the final layout of the quilt. And so even though it's done and no longer a mystery, I'm going to respect that and not show it on paper. But here's one of the main blocks that I've constructed with the clues. And so I have the Tilda Sunday brunch line. That was the fabric that drew me into ordering this kit. So there's a couple solids in here and a few of the prints from that line. The border fabric is the one that I'm really excited about because that's the main print in the teal colorway. And so I really want to see this one put together. And again, another springy quilt. And if you're participating in the 2026 brown bag mystery, that should wrap up in about May. So maybe I could finish mine while others are finishing this year's. So I thought that would be a good one to do for May. Okay, for June, I'm just thinking Father's Day. Not that this will be done by Father's Day, but I'm making it for my husband, who is a wonderful father. And so this quilt is a collection of kind of outdoors and fly fishing themed motifs that I've collected over the years. And I'm making the Chatsworth quilt for him. This is a block of the month style quilt by Doug Lecco. I'm not going to do it as a block of the month, obviously, but if I can focus on getting it done over the month with these little braided foundation paper piece parts, that would be wonderful. I have not made a lot of progress on this. I have one video that shows how I make one block with the accent pieces and the braided piece. And that's as far as I've gotten, but I'll show you those blocks just to refresh your memory, or if you haven't seen that video. All right, July is where I might be introducing another quilt. I always hear Christmas in July, working on things in the summer so that it's ready by Christmas. And so this is where I might want to start thinking about making that big Christmas quilt for my bed. Now, lo and behold, Stitchery is doing another sew along this year. I believe it's 8 months long, and it's for a pattern called Homespun. And when I saw it, I just fell in love with it. So I had already gone ahead and pre-ordered the PDF version, just the patterns, not any of the fabric kits. It includes access to pre-quilt where you can try out different colors, and oh my gosh, that was so much fun to do. I'll share some of those with you now, and then I'll show you what I ended up picking. I'm just going to walk through a few of the colorway options that I tried out on pre-quilt. This first one was using art gallery solids, and I call this one Sea Pop because it was inspired by sea colors, the greens and dark blues, and then also some coral colors in there. This one is with Bella solids, and I called it Boughs of Holly because it was inspired by a little picture that goes to a tea set that has little sprigs of holly on it, and so this has several of those colors in there. This one was also mocked up with Bella Solids. I call it Joyful Dream because I think I'd been working on this for a while, and I went to bed and just had this dream about orange and pinks in this quilt, and I wanted to see what it would look like. This very colorful one was inspired by a postcard of Mount Rainier, which I'll show you. I'll pop up here. But I just pulled several of the colors in the postcard, and it turned out to be a very bright, cheerful looking quilt. And then thinking about a patriotic quilt for the 250th anniversary of the United States, I wanted to try one in red, white, and blues. And as I've mentioned, I think pink is a great complementary color to reds, and so I threw some pink in there too. And finally, this one was made with Kona solids, and it's inspired by a fall centerpiece that our wonderful PTA at my school I teach at put in our staff lounge during conference week. There were several of these pumpkins with dahlias and just all kinds of greenery in them, and I love the colors and took pictures of them because I thought that would make a great quilt someday. So it was really hard to narrow down which colorway to go with, but I was very drawn to the one I'm calling Boughs of Holly. And the color inspiration came from this little picture. I loved just the different teals and shades of green and the different tones of red in this. And I thought this would be perfect for Christmas. And so I pulled a bunch of colors that worked with this craft, including just the kind of off-white in the background. And so I thought that made a beautiful colorway. So at the end of the year, my favorite local quilt shop had their big inventory sale where almost the whole store was 30% off, 40% if you used cash. And so I went ahead and got the fabrics for this, and I'll show those to you now. So here's a close-up of what I'm calling Boughs of Holly. And you can see it with the little picture that was the inspiration. Now, these are not all from the same line. Most of them are Riley Blake confetti cottons. I can go down my list and tell you what I ended up getting. I marked each fabric with a piece of tape while I was in the shop and could see the names. So for fabric A, I'm using a Riley Blake clover. And again, Riley Blake calls their solids confetti cottons. So this one is called clover. B, I'm using Riley Blake Christmas green. C is one of the main fabrics, and this is a Riley Blake called Cozy. It's kind of a teal color. I thought that one looked really nice with the holly leaves. D is also Riley Blake. It's called Holly. E is a Northcott fabric, and it's called Cardinal. F is a Riley Blake called Ivory. G is a Riley Blake called Cappuccino. H is an art gallery fabric solid called Coconut Milk. I is a Riley Blake called Barn Red. J is a Riley Blake called Lettuce. K is a Riley Blake called Dahlia Red. L is a Riley Blake called Brick. M is a Riley Blake called Basil. N is an art gallery fabric called latte. O is a Riley Blake called La Creme. P is a Riley Blake called Bear Lake. Q is a Riley Blake called Honeydew. R was a Riley Blake called Cayenne. S is a Wilmington Prince. It's number 0151. I didn't see an actual name on it for the color. T is a Riley Blake called Grass. And U is a Riley Blake called Sand Dollar. I did not get any backing or binding yet for these. I believe there's a total of 20 or 21 colors here. So you can see why I was waiting for that 40% off sale at my local quilt shop. Solids are nice too because they're already less expensive to begin with. But for this amount, I definitely wanted to wait for that sale. The nice thing about pre-quilt is that you could pick colors by manufacturer. So if you want Moda's Bella Solids or Riley Blake's Confetti Cottons or Kona or whichever solid fabric lines you like, there were so many listed there to choose from. You could pick from those and it would tell you the colors. You could see it placed in the quilt. And so when you find one that you like, you can print off those colors and it tells you how many of each that you need. Now I had printed Kona and Bella Solids, but my quilt shop's main solid line they carried was Riley Blake Confetti Cottons. And so I just found what was most similar when I was in the shop and it worked out just fine. I went on a weekday hoping it wouldn't be as busy because they're having their big end of the year sale, and the ladies at the counter were so great about letting me just add tape to say this is fabric A, this is fabric B. I was just, because solids don't usually put the name on them and some are so close that, you know, I just didn't want to mix them up when I got home. So I was labeling them in the shop to match my printout here. And so it's all ready to go. This is what it should look like when it's done with these colors. Now, again, this is all hypothetical. If I'm caught up enough and want to take on another Christmas project, I have 2 more waiting that I would love to make this year. I kind of teased at the end of one of my other videos that I had plans for a Christmas quilt and it just didn't happen, but I will share that fabric with you that I had got and what my plan for it is. And then there's another one too. So again, I'd love your input if I have time to make it this year or just sometime in the future. Which ones are you drawn to? Which ones would you like to see me make? I would appreciate that feedback. So let's take a look at those. Now I am pretty sold on doing the homespun quilt as my Christmas quilt this year. One, because it will be large enough to cover our queen size bed, and that's what I want is a large Christmas quilt. But also there is going to be an active sew along that spans the course of 8 months. And while I might not be able to participate month to month, I don't know that I can stay caught up and work on the other quilts that I'm doing. I can have a good catch-up month in July, and it would be nice to participate in it while it's actively going on and there's little contests and things happening. And so that's why I'm kind of leaning toward it. But there's another sew along happening. Erica Arndt from Confessions of a Homeschooler has designed Candy Cane Lane, and I absolutely love this quilt. I think it's just so whimsical, very sweet. It has the pinks in it that I like in Christmas quilts. And so I believe I heard her say in one of her more recent videos that she would be doing a sew along. So this was released with her beautiful fabric line that sells out immediately. But I do have this layer cake that I picked up while I was in Quilt Town, USA in Hamilton, Missouri. It's called Frost and Flurry. And so once I got this pattern and looked at the fabric requirements, I picked up just a couple more pieces because most of it I think can be done with the layer cake, but I was looking at which ones needed more of one fabric. I needed more of the brown for the roof, and then I got some of this blue because there's these little shelves that the houses sit on, or just these lines. And so I got those. And then I have some border fabrics. I think it was Missouri Star had a flash sale at one point, and I got a couple charm packs. I thought that would be nice for the tinier pieces in here. I could get those out of here, and these were, I want to say they were like $5, so I grabbed their limit of 2. And then I just got a little more fabric for the green trees, and then you have the candy canes, and this one may be my binding. I haven't gone through and labeled yet. I think somewhere I have a piece of paper that says what each of these yardage prints are for. But I thought that these would look cute. The colors would be similar to what she has on the cover here. So that's Candy Cane Lane. And it's nice when the designers have these quilt-alongs. It kind of motivates you to keep up with it and get a finished product. But I just know that that's not going to be the case for me, and I'm going to have to miss out on some of them because I just have too many. This last option was at one point a block of the month, and I did not get this until recently. This was the one I kind of teased about that was my plan to do until I saw Homespun and Candy Cane Lane. And so this one was a block of the month by Missouri Star Quilt Company called The Magic Garden. And I guess this one was a while ago, and then they also did a Christmas version. And I liked it so much that I got fabrics for it. I'm not doing their Christmas version. You can get their kits. I don't know if they still have them, but I just was going to show you what was in the box here. So there was some cute stuff in here. So these are just my notes about what fabrics go with which block. But there's a getting started guide, month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the reason they call it the Magic Garden is because a lot of these blocks start one way, and then you might cut them in half or diagonally and put them back together, and they make a totally different block. So just seeing the sample quilts on their channel and then the picture here, I thought it looked so pretty and would definitely make a beautiful Christmas quilt. So also in the box, if you buy the kit and just opt to use your own fabric, there was this little envelope here. It's kind of a hard plastic with Velcro fasteners. I don't know, I tried putting all the pattern books in. It can't hold all of them. It does hold 1 or 2 at a time, so I'm not exactly sure what I would use this for, but it's very cute. And then there were some other little gifts that came in it. There's cards saying what these are for. So there's a little label. Now this matches their original fabric line that they used in the first kit. And then there's this little needle minder book. Looks like a little matchbook. And it actually comes with needles and a needle threader. Oh, that's pretty cute. And then it also comes with a charm that matches the first block, the center of the quilt. But let's take a look at the fabric because that's what I'm most excited about. So I chose a fabric line called Glisten, and I actually ordered it through Fat Quarter Shop a while ago. They were really great when I was trying to find a solid that would coordinate, and I was asking someone in customer service actually pulled their solids and told me that pearl would look best with the background in this line. And so I think it does look really nice. So let me show you what I've got here. And I do have these ones labeled. They're all kind of folded together. So this is going to be my binding, the red background with the dot. And then I have these labeled according to the pattern. So fabric E, this one is C, B. I love these vintage ornaments. And again, it has that blushy pink in there that I think looks so good with Christmas red. D is this very deep green. It might read as black at first, but it is a very deep green. And I think that's it for this bundle. I think they were kind of folded according to size. And then this bundle here is my H fabric I want to use for the border. Here's F, G, that dark green again, A, these cute little sprigs shaped like Christmas trees. And that's it for that bundle. And then for the backing fabric, I chose the main yardage. This is called Olive Main, is the green. And then, as I said, the pearl, this is a confetti cotton pearl for the background. So I just kind of studied the picture and thought what colors would look good in the center. And then I want to border it with a good contrasting color and then mix the border blocks so that I'm not going to have, reds next to each other or, all my greens together. I just wanted to really contrast. And so I just kind of used that to decide which color options and which prints I liked when I chose my yardage rather than go for the kit. So that's my last Christmas option. Again, I'd love to hear which one you'd be most excited to see, the Magic Garden, Candy Cane Lane, or Homespun. Like I said, I'm leaning toward Homespun, but if by some chance I have more time or just on a whim feel like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, I'd love to hear which one you'd like to see next. For August, it's summertime, and as a teacher, it's a lot more laid back until the end where I have to start prepping my classroom and everything. But usually we do most of our travels at the beginning of the summer, and so I thought this might be a good time to work on my Extravaganza quilt. This is a big one. I'll have to pop it up on the screen. The top is done, but I'm still making the accent pieces, and those shouldn't take too long to get done, but what will is the quilting. I had asked in a video a while ago about custom quilting it or hand quilting it, and after reading several comments, I like the point that many viewers made about it being kind of a vintage looking quilt, an heirloom quilt, and that hand stitching would really go along with the motif. And so I tried the big stitch hand quilting on that July vintage truck quilt because I wanted to see, is it something that would be enjoyable, something that I think I could do and not just ruin all this work. and I do think that I can do it. And so I just know it's going to take time. So August seems like a good month to work on it if I'm pretty caught up. I decided to do wool batting. I just, after hearing from some viewers and reading about how nicely hand quilting threads glide through wool, how it can be warm but also cooler, I'm sold on the idea of wool batting. So I have that. It feels so soft and squishy in the bag. I can't wait to put it with this quilt and give it some loft. And that batting really just brings the quilts to life. And once the hand quilting's in there, it's going to be gorgeous, but it's going to take time. So hopefully that will be my August project. Let me show you some of those accent pieces that I've been working on. One of the things I really love about this quilt, and that's going to make it such a keepsake, is the memories of making it. Because it's EPP and it's portable, I have worked on several of these, including the main blocks, on my travels. It's come with me on several road trips, on vacations, on airplanes, boats, ferry rides, camping. It's just going to be a really special quilt. And I can remember when I look at several of these pieces where I was and who I was with when I was making them. So I'm really excited to get this one finished and do it justice. I've also prepped these 4 patches. They're going to be appliqued as little circles. And so I was kind of testing the fussy cutting on them. And so I have several of these ready to go, which will also be accent pieces, but with the bigger characters or motifs that I wanted to make sure got captured. I just wanted to make sure when they're cut into circles that I didn't lose any of the characters. So I was very careful with the placement. Like I wouldn't put this one in the upper edge where part of the head might get trimmed off there. So these will all become circular applique pieces. For September, I would love to wrap up the high tea crochet fusion quilt. This is a quilt that is very portable, and I work on it when I'm waiting for one of my daughters to get out of an activity, or they're roller skating, or I'm at the doctor's office. It's just something I have ready to go in a tote bag, and I can work on it as I go. I started this quilt in February of 2025, and at the time, the creator of the pattern, Fannie Lou Designs, had a website and a blog post explaining how this quilt goes together, but that website is no longer up. Now, I know there are several viewers who saw my first progress video on this quilt and have asked about how to access the pattern since the website's no longer up. And the only direction I can steer you in now at this point, and what I'll be using to finish it, is the YouTube videos that were featured on the blog post. They still break down every step. And so I have pinned a comment at the top in my video about the high tea quilt, directing you to those YouTube videos if that's something that you wanted to make. It's what I'll be using to finish the quilt. And like I mentioned in that video, my mom's doing all the crochet portions. So it's just a matter of I'm enlarging this quilt to be 120 squares, and I have over half of them done. There's a bunch in this bag here. I've got more. I need to get another bag started, but I just have been giving them to my mom, sometimes a dozen at a time, sometimes here's just two that I've done. And so I've been getting these to her and she just gets them back to me. And like I said, I have over half of them done. So it's hard to do another progress video on how to connect these until they're all done and I can lay them all out. And so I'm hoping that this is something I'll continue working on throughout the year, and that by September, hopefully, we're deep enough in the year that I can actually start joining all these squares. And of course, when I'm at that stage, I will share a video of how I do it. But like I said, my mom's doing all the crochet portions. And so the best place to go to see that are those YouTube videos that were in the original blog post. For October, I would like to finish the Farmer's Wife quilt. This is a foundation paper pieced quilt using the book The Farmer's Wife Quilt Sampler. I believe I selected 36 blocks from this book that I want to incorporate in a layout that I designed for them. The reason this one is taking longer is because I've been making videos for these blocks that highlight some of the letters that were written to the editor of the Farmer's Wife magazine during the 1930s. And I have just loved reading the insight and the hope and advice that these ladies shared. And so those videos take a bit of work, finding the ads and the letters and incorporating them into the videos. And my husband has been great about helping with those videos and just getting everything to look nice in them. But I might, to speed it up, do more than two per video, or maybe just some without all the letters and everything. But I really love that series and want to continue. It's just that extra layer of gathering all the visuals and choosing letters and reading through them. And so we'll see if I can get this one finished and what I might do to speed it up a little bit, but they really are worth making. And I have so much beautiful bead sack fabric and just 1930s inspired prints that I want to use. My next two that I've had pulled for months and I just haven't made, if you want a sneak peek of those, I wanted to do this purple line and I want to do the Ava block. My oldest daughter's name is Ava and she loves purple. So I wanted to do that one. And then my youngest daughter's name is Cora. There is not a Cora block, but there is a coral. And I wanted to actually use some feed sack fabric in that one. And the coral block has bigger pieces that I thought would highlight that feed sack fabric. So this is more of kind of a patriotic looking red, white, and blue block, but that's my plan. And I have all the blocks selected. I just need to go through the letters and then find them in the archives to use in the video. So I might, like I said, just shortcut it a bit and not do it for every block. But I do want to see this one finished. It is a very beautiful, meaningful quilt. For October, this is a quilt that I started in September of 24. It's just an original pattern. I haven't written the pattern, it's just diagrammed. It doesn't even have a name. I'm just calling it Willow because that's the fabric line that I'm using. And I'm not going to show the blocks for that because I haven't finished it, but it is made primarily of half square triangles. So I have a bunch that are started here that just need to be pressed and trimmed, and squares. And so, and then I have some solid fabric too that's cut for this. So that's one that I would love to finish and actually write the pattern for. I will say I have a few patterns that I've designed and done on electric quilt. I just don't like writing patterns. I don't like coming up with the diagrams and everything. And I feel like that's what always makes me pump the brakes on seeing my patterns through. Is I feel like, well, I should be writing them as I'm making them and putting it together, while the steps are fresh in my head. And yeah, I just don't enjoy the writing of patterns. So if you have any tips, if you ever write your own patterns and you have an easy way of getting the diagrams in there or formatting them, I would love to hear it, because I feel like that is what just makes me fizzle out on seeing my own patterns through and making them available to other people. And to wrap up the year in December, if all goes according to plan, which I'm sure it will.
Sure, Jan.
I thought ending the year with Brick House would be great. This is a free pattern from Fat Quarter Shop that they put out in 2022. I started in April of 22, and this is a record quilt that I'm making. I use the remnants of projects that I've made to make these sweet little houses, and I want to get them in a quilt. I don't know how many I'm going to make. I just figured I'd make them until I like the dimension or size. I probably have plenty. If I get some of these whips done, use those leftover fabrics, that would give a big boost to the number of blocks that I have. But I just figured this would be a good way to wrap up the year, is get this quilt finished. If you're wondering how I store all these blocks that are waiting to be turned into tops, I have a few options that have worked well. So pizza boxes are great if you can get a hold of some clean pizza boxes. This one is just a little small, but if I just lightly roll them over, I can fit it in. Another thing I use are these project bags. They're great because it keeps dust and hair and moisture off of them. And so I store them in this larger rollerblade box. And so some of them I use in full, like this one, and then others, like my Extravaganza or Farmer's Wife blocks, I can just fold the bag in half. And so I can fit several projects in this rollerblade box. And then on the very bottom, the blocks that are too large to put in a bag, they just lie flat at the bottom of the box. So this just makes it easier to store multiple bags if you can get a large tote or box like this, so you just don't have loose bags spilling out. It just contains them nicely. So I mentioned before that I don't want to bring in more projects and more fabric, and it's certainly something that I'm going to try and stick to this year. I have unsubscribed from several quilt shop newsletters and things just to remove some of that temptation.
Need a new hobby? Time to start quilting.
Don't tempt me further.
There's always a sale happening somewhere. And so, again, I just need to keep that in mind, that there will always be fabric there. So just not worry about missing out on that particular line. There's one that I did pre-order that I know will be coming, I believe, in the summer, and that's Fat Quarter Shop's mystery quilt, Boo to You. And this is a smaller quilt. I believe it's a wall hanging, but I just saw the fabric they're using. I thought it was adorable, and it's a smaller project, so I thought it would be doable. So that is the one new one that will come this year that that I ordered in 2025. But aside from that, I really am going to try to stick to that. One of the highlights of 2025 for me as a quilter was getting to go see Missouri Star Quilt Company in Hamilton, Missouri. I just spent a day there with my sister and my aunt, and it was such a beautiful summer day. And it was amazing seeing all the different shops tailored to different types of fabric and motifs. And so that is a memory that I will cherish for sure. And a place I'd like to visit this year is the Shabby Fabrics showroom in Post Falls, Idaho. I saw that they opened their showroom up towards the end of 2025. And we always drive by Post Falls to go visit my in laws in Montana. And so I'm going to try to make that happen this year and visit the showroom. So if I make it there this year, I should not be coming back with a big haul video or anything because I am trying to adhere to not adding more. But to keep these wonderful quilt shops in business, we need more quilters and more people getting interested in it. And so I hope that my channel and these videos help pull more quilters in and inspire you to give it a try if you haven't, or to stretch your skills or try a different kind of project. I just want this to be a channel that sparks your creativity and makes you want to push yourself a little more too, because that's what I feel like these projects are for me. It's just pushing my skill set, whether it's foundation paper piecing, English paper piecing, hand quilting, designing a pattern. It all represents growth to me. And I would love for quilting to become a hobby for even more people. And I love seeing what other people are making. And I just love that we can inspire one another. So thank you so much if you got to the end of this video. I hope to have many beautiful finishes in 2026, but no matter what, I enjoy the process. I enjoy strengthening those skills, and I enjoy having you come along with me. See you next time.